A $6 meal turned into a $20 million idea. A free concert, played inside a video game, reached more people than most artists reach in a lifetime of touring. And a sneaker, just a sneaker, became so desirable that it could vanish from shelves in minutes and resurface online for 4 or 5 times the price. That's the version of Travis Scott most people know. Sold-out stadiums, a mansion in Brentwood, his name stitched onto sneakers, cereal boxes, seltzer cans. Here's the version most people don't know. Behind those numbers sits a strange and telling contradiction. Travis Scott has helped generate hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, and only ever kept a fraction of it. So how much is he actually worth? Where does the money really come from? And how did a producer from Houston turn himself into one of the most commercially powerful brands in music? Because this isn't just a story about albums and endorsement checks. It's a story about a much harder lesson, the difference between making money and owning it. Before the private jets and the Nike deals, there was just Jacques Berman Webster II, a kid from Houston who left college to chase a sound he couldn't fully explain yet. That decision cost him. It strained things with his family. It meant bouncing between cities with no guarantee any of it would work. He didn't start with a business empire. He started with mixtapes, borrowed studio time, and a stubborn belief that his production style, hazy, cinematic, a little unfinished on purpose, was worth something. By the early 2000s, that belief started paying off in relationships. Epic Records, T.I.'s Grand Hustle, Kanye West's Good Music Circle. Each connection opened a door, but doors aren't income. A young artist can be everywhere, on the radio and the blogs, streamed 1,000,000 times a week, while still signing away huge percentages of what he makes to labels, managers, and agents. Travis didn't just need hits, he needed leverage. And leverage, it turns out, takes years to build. Rodeo arrived in 2015 and introduced the sound. Birds in the Trap Sing McKnight followed in 2016 and hit #1. Then in 2018 came the album that changed the math entirely, Astroworld. Astroworld wasn't just a hit record, it was a world. Its own visual language, its own merchandise line, its own emotional tether to the Houston amusement park it was named after. The one that shut down when Travis was a kid. Fans weren't just streaming an album. They were buying into a mythology. And that mythology is what turned Travis from a successful rapper into a headliner people would travel across the country to see. This is where the first engine of Travis Scott's fortune kicks in: touring. Forbes reported the Astroworld Tour grossed more than $53 million in 2019, one of the biggest hip-hop tours of the year. Years later, the Circus Maximus World Tour blew past that. By the time it wrapped in 2025, Live Nation put the total gross north of $250 million across more than 2 million tickets sold. Read those numbers again, because they're deceiving. A gross is not a paycheck. It's the total before anyone gets paid, before the venue takes its cut, before promoters take theirs, before managers and agents collect commission, before the stage, the lighting rigs, the pyrotechnics, the trucks, the crew, the insurance, and the hotel rooms for 100+ people get paid for. Run a production at Travis Scott's scale, and the operating costs alone can climb into the tens of millions. So when a tour grosses $250 million, Travis isn't handed a check for $250 million. Not close. What's left after expenses is still substantial, but it's a different number entirely, and it's one that stays private. What touring does generate, beyond the money, is momentum. Every show feeds the catalog. The catalog feeds streaming. Streaming keeps an artist culturally alive between album cycles. And staying culturally alive is what gives an artist leverage at the negotiating table. With labels, with brands, with anyone who wants a piece of that audience. This is the part of Travis Scott's story that's actually interesting. His music might not be his most valuable asset. The attention his music generates might be worth more than the music itself. Most artists chase one more hit. Travis chased something bigger, a name that could live anywhere. He built Cactus Jack, not just a label, but an identity, a symbol fans recognized instantly. Whether it showed up on a record sleeve, a t-shirt, a sneaker box, a cereal aisle, or a fast food bag, the product changed. The world it belonged to never did. That consistency is exactly what made Travis valuable to companies far outside music. They weren't paying for his face on a billboard. They were paying for a door into his audience, an audience that would show up for almost anything with the cactus on it. Nowhere was that clearer than in 2020 when McDonald's launched the Travis Scott meal. On paper, it was nothing new. A quarter pounder, fries, barbecue sauce, a Sprite. $6. Items that had been on the menu for decades. But the campaign didn't sell a meal. It sold a moment. Fans lined up. TikToks flooded in. People bought the merchandise before they'd even ordered the food. Forbes estimated Travis earned around $5 million from the traditional endorsement fee, and roughly $15 million more from merchandise tied to the campaign. Those numbers were estimates, not confirmed figures, but the structure behind them mattered more than the totals. A typical spokesperson gets paid once and walks away. Travis, by contrast, appears to have participated in the actual economics of the moment he helped create, meaning the more the campaign caught fire, the more he stood to make. That's not an endorsement, that's ownership of an outcome. He ran the same playbook with Fortnite. In 2020, Travis performed Astronomical, a virtual concert staged entirely inside the game. More than 12 million players reportedly logged in for the first live showing. Epic Games later said the full event series pulled in over 27 million unique participants. No stadium, no ticket booth, no stage to load onto a truck. Just an idea rendered in a game engine, watched by more people than most stadium tours will reach in a decade. Forbes estimated Travis grossed roughly $20 million from the project, merchandise included. And once again, the strategy was the real story. Give millions of people a moment they can't get anywhere else, then build products around the attention that moment creates. Somewhere around here, Travis Scott stopped looking like a rapper with good sponsorships and started looking like a company. If Cactus Jack was the identity, Nike and Jordan Brand became the engine that monetized it on a loop. Celebrity sneaker deals weren't new when Travis got one. What he did with his was turn every release into an event. Recognizable design cues, deliberately limited runs. The reverse swoosh detail that became his signature. Retail price, a few $100s. Resale price on the secondary market, often several times that. Travis doesn't see a cut of what a reseller makes flipping his shoes. That money goes to the seller and the platform. But those resale prices still work in his favor indirectly. They're proof of demand presented to Nike in the clearest language a business understands. People will fight to pay more for this. Forbes estimated back in 2020 that the Nike relationship was worth roughly $10 million a year to Travis at that point. The current terms are private, and the number has almost certainly moved since. But the shape of the deal tells you everything. Nike didn't just hand Travis an endorsement. It handed him a recurring product line. An album drops every few years. A sneaker collaboration can drop every few months, which means Nike gave Travis a way to stay commercially relevant in the gaps between music. He extended that same playbook into PlayStation, General Mills, and Dior. Gaming, food, luxury fashion, each one a different shelf in a different store, all stocked with the same underlying brand. Some of Travis's biggest moves weren't endorsements at all. They were attempts to own the thing outright. In 2017, he founded Cactus Jack Records, home to artists including Don Toliver, Sheck Wes, and Sofago. The contracts and revenue splits are private, so there's no way to calculate what the label actually pays him. But strategically, the move is significant. As a recording artist, Travis earns from his own output. As a label founder, he potentially earns from other people's success too, meaning there's now money coming in even on days he isn't the streetwear boutique in Houston that gives the Cactus Jack world a physical home in the city that built him, a place fans can walk into instead of just scroll past. Then came Cacti, an agave-based seltzer launched with Anheuser-Busch. It entered a crowded, competitive category with one obvious advantage: Travis's name and the audience attached to it. Anheuser-Busch discontinued the brand in 2021. It later returned under a different arrangement. What Travis invested, earned, or lost through that process was never made public. Not every expansion survives contact with a real market. That's not a footnote. It might be the most honest lesson in the whole story. Celebrity attention can launch a product. It can't run the supply chain, fix the pricing, or keep customers coming back a second time. Fame opens the door. It doesn't operate the business behind it. In 2022, Travis also joined a $50 million funding round for Better, the sports betting and media company started by Jake Paul and Joey Levy. His individual contribution was never disclosed. And it's worth being precise here. A $50 million round means $50 million raised across all investors combined, not $50 million from any one of them. Still, the investment marks something new. Travis looking past entertainment for growth, not just endorsement money. This is usually where these stories get exaggerated, so let's stay careful. In 2020, Travis reportedly bought a Brentwood mansion for roughly $23.5 million, paid in cash, according to property reports. Multiple bedrooms, a home theater, an infinity pool, room for a serious car collection. In 2018, he and Kylie Jenner jointly bought a Beverly Hills property for around $13.5 million. It was later listed for sale. Beyond that, the public image writes itself. Cars, watches, designer, everything. But this is exactly where celebrity net worth content usually goes off the rails. Online lists love to slap exact price tags on a celebrity's jewelry or cars without proof the celebrity bought it, still owns it, or paid what's being claimed. A gifted watch isn't a purchased watch. A rented car for a video shoot isn't a car in someone's garage. A jeweler's asking price isn't what actually changed hands. What can be said honestly? Travis lives at an extremely expensive altitude. The real question isn't whether the lifestyle is real, it's whether it's funded by durable assets and recurring income, or whether it depends entirely on him staying famous. For Travis, the honest answer is probably both. He has real diversified income: catalog, touring, brand deals, the label, retail, product lines. But nearly every one of those streams traces back to a single asset, his name. And that concentration is a risk, whether or not it ever shows up on a balance sheet. In November 2021, 10 people died in a crowd surge at the Astroworld Festival in Houston. Whatever else this story's about, that has to come first. The human loss isn't a data point in a business breakdown. It's the center of the tragedy, and no financial analysis changes that. But it's also true that the aftermath showed, in real time, just how fragile a one-name empire can be. Travis, Live Nation, and other parties faced extensive civil litigation. Nike quietly postponed a planned release. Anheuser-Busch discontinued Cacti. Shows were delayed or scrapped. Corporate partners went quiet, watching to see which way public opinion would break. A Texas grand jury later declined to indict Travis Scott. The wrongful death lawsuits were eventually settled, with the terms kept private, which means any claim about the financial cost of that settlement would be a guess dressed up as a fact. What's not a guess is the structural lesson. When almost every business you've built is tethered to one person's name, a crisis involving that person doesn't stay contained to one part of the empire. It moves through all of it at once. Music, touring, brand deals, legal exposure, insurance, public trust, all under pressure simultaneously. That may be the single biggest weakness sitting underneath everything Travis built. He diversified his products. He never fully diversified his reputation risk. The sneakers, the seltzer, the merchandise, the tours, they look like separate businesses. They all draw from the same well, and yet the brand held. Travis gradually returned to performing. Nike resumed releases. Cacti came back. Utopia debuted at #1 in 2023. The Circus Maximus Tour became the biggest of his career. None of that erases what happened in Houston, but commercially it proved something uncomfortable and true. The demand for what Travis Scott built didn't disappear. It waited. So what was Travis Scott's smartest financial decision? It wasn't the mansion. It wasn't any single endorsement. It wasn't even one great album. It was building a world people wanted to belong to, and then negotiating his way into owning a piece of everything sold inside that world. The McDonald's deal is the cleanest example of the whole philosophy. A typical celebrity takes a check to promote someone else's product and walks away. Travis used the promotion as a launch pad to sell products tied to his identity. McDonald's owned the restaurants. Travis owned the cultural moment happening around them. And a cultural moment, it turns out, can be monetized a dozen different ways at once. Music built the audience. The audience created demand. Demand created leverage. Leverage bought better deals. Better deals funded new businesses. That's the whole machine in 6 steps. But there's a second lesson buried under all the impressive totals, and it might matter more than the first one. Revenue is not wealth. A tour can gross $250 million and still leave far less in personal profit than the headline suggests. A funding round can raise $50 million without making any single investor rich. A $20 million house can quietly cost hundreds of thousands a year just to maintain. A person can look enormously wealthy in public while carrying taxes, commissions, legal bills, security costs, and staff payroll that never make it into a headline. That's exactly why net worth estimates for Travis Scott vary so widely. Some public figures land around $80 million, others go higher. There's no audited public statement settling the question. His private contracts, ownership stakes, debts, and tax obligations aren't public information, and they probably never will be. The exact number stays uncertain. The strategy behind it doesn't. You're probably not launching a sneaker line or headlining a festival. That's not the point. The underlying move is stop selling your time and start building something that keeps selling after you stop working on it. A salary pays you while you're clocked in. A freelance invoice pays you once for one project. But a product, a royalty, a piece of a business, a licensing deal, those can keep generating value long after the original work is finished. Travis used music to get people's attention. He never treated music as the finish line. It was just the opening move. A photographer can shoot weddings and also sell presets. A teacher can earn a salary and also publish a curriculum other teachers pay to use. A designer can bill by the project and also license templates that sell while they sleep. None of that requires fame. It just requires treating your skill as the start of something ownable, not the whole business. His story is also a warning, and it's worth taking seriously. Don't expand faster than you can actually manage the risk. Don't assume popularity is a substitute for solid operations, and be careful about building anything, a business, a reputation, a life, so entirely dependent on one single asset that one bad year can put all of it at risk at the same time. Travis Scott's financial story is really a story about conversion. Music into attention, attention into products, products into partnerships, partnerships into an empire that reaches far past hip-hop. The exact size of his fortune may stay private forever. The method behind building it isn't a secret at all. He never just sold songs. He sold access to a world. And the most valuable thing in that world was never the album, or the shoe, or the $6 meal. It was the audience willing to follow him from one thing to the next. That, more than any single deal, might be the real source of his wealth. Not fame on its own, but the ability to turn fame into something people will actually pay for. What do you think was Travis Scott's smartest business move? The Nike partnership, the McDonald strategy, or building Cactus Jack itself? Drop your answer below and subscribe to Net Worth Decode. We don't just count celebrity money, we break down the decisions that built it.